Let me say it again. You're the friend that people always lean on, but you're never the friend that leans. Hi, Soul Tribe. And as you can see by today's title, I'm going to be sharing with you how I have healed and still am healing the abandonment wound. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, what is the abandonment wound, right? In my own words, the abandonment wound is when you experience chronic absence of emotional support or physical support, but more so emotional. So, in other words, when you are having these experiences repetitively from childhood to adulthood, you genuinely feel emotionally unsupported either by your caregivers, your friends, your family, boyfriend, girlfriend, work, it does not matter. You generally feel like you're not supported emotionally, like you're not seen, you're not heard, you're not valid, you're not important. Basically, that's what that feels like. One example of this is having a parent that isn't emotionally available to your needs. Maybe they were so focused on paying the bills and making sure that you were fed, making sure that you had a roof over your head and food, clothes on your back and food to eat. But with all of that said, they were probably in survival mode and they did not have the time or the capacity to feed you spiritually and emotionally. They didn't have time to be emotionally available towards your needs. So with that said, a lot of your needs as a child went unmet. So as a result, you were emotionally abandoned, triggering that abandonment wound. And so of course, you know, from the ages 0 to 7, our subconscious mind is still being built. It's still being developed. And so we end up having these beliefs, which I'll explain in a little bit. In a relationship, emotional abandonment could also look like you and your partner getting into a disagreement or a bit of an argument, and one person is always more reciprocal than the other when it comes to the problem solving process, or you experience a lot of silent treatment and the other person not being able to be receptive to taking accountability for their part. I'm sorry, I got this hair or whatever it is, a string, whatever. Your partner about not being receptive to their part of the problem, and so therefore they can't meet you where you need them to be at. They don't have the capacity to fully comprehend and understand where and how to meet your needs, no matter how much you try to talk to them. So that is a form of emotional abandonment. Another form of emotional abandonment could be you could feel in friendships as well. Always being out of the loop. It's almost as if you're the friend that people lean on, but you're never the friend that leans. Let me say it again. You're the friend that people always lean on, but you're never the friend that leans. That to me is also a sign of emotional abandonment. You're doing all the work for everybody else. You're there for everybody else. You're the hero for everybody else, but no one tends to do the same for you. And I also feel like we can feel emotionally abandoned at work. However, the system is a system, and I just feel like in order for us to really make sure that our feelings are validated in the workplace, number one, we have to set up boundaries, but also we just don't live in the system that, you know, encourages this type of work. To me, I could be wrong, but in order for businesses and corporations to jump on board, they would literally have to obliterate the whole entire system and create a new one. Let's be honest here. A lot of corporations say they care about your well-being, they care about, you know, how you're feeling, but the moment you begin to express yourself, the moment you want to be heard and you start voicing your matters and concerns, you're on the chopping block. There's not too many corporations that are going to follow through with that unless They were built on systems of integrity, holistic care for all of their employees, so on and so forth. Unless they were built on consciousness, and let's be real, a lot of corporations are. In this day and age, it's all about profit over people, and that's it. Anyway, moving on. So according to Psychology Today, in order for you to really feel emotionally supported and not abandoned, you would need to feel listened to, understood, valued, nurtured, appreciated, seen, accepted, to have some type of compassion, affection, and love. And oftentimes when you go so long without these things, you begin to really feel that hurt, that pain, and even some type of resentment towards others as well as yourself. Some of the effects that come with this wound is that you have internalized shame, but you mask it with shyness. See what I did there? You have internalized shame, but you mask it with shyness. Oh, I'm just shy. No. Some of y'all are just afraid of being yourself, period. You're afraid of being seen, of taking up space. You're worried that if you are seen, that if you do take up space, that you will be a target for criticism. You'll be a target for rejection. Also feeling like you're unworthy and you have a low inherent self-worth and self-value. And because of that, you also might accept being treated any type of way. You have a jaded view of yourself and others. And you could also develop an anxious attachment style or an avoidant attachment style. You shut down in the midst of tension because you don't know how to verbalize what your needs are. Or maybe you do know how to verbalize them, you just were never supported in that way in the past. Maybe when you were a child, you tried to voice how you felt and your parent disregarded it, or they made you feel invalidated, and so you just kind of grew up taking on this habit of, instead of expressing yourself because your voice doesn't matter, your voice constantly gets ignored, you decided, you know what, I'm not even going to waste my breath, I'm not even going to waste my time, I'm just going to shut down and leave it at that. I'm going to leave it alone. Another sign of this is being loyal to the extent of self-betrayal. Staying with somebody who abuses you and neglects you is an example of being loyal to the extent of self-betrayal. Or doing a bid for somebody. That is being loyal to the extent of self-betrayal. You're willing to betray yourself in order to keep the company of someone who, quite frankly, doesn't give a fuck about your well-being. Another sign of this is putting too much trust in someone, but also it could be not trusting anyone at all. Like you're questioning everyone and everything and every motive. And quite honestly, both sound pretty exhausting. Now, being abandoned doesn't always put emphasis on other people. It can also be about yourself. We self-abandon all the time. We usually self-abandon when we feel like being ourselves is not good enough. And so as a result, we learned how to pick up on social cues, we learned how to read other people, and by that we learned how to be what other people needed us to be. But as a result of that, we stopped being in alignment with who we were, to please others in order to get our needs met. And that was a result of us being in survival mode, especially in adolescence and in childhood. And evidently this is how empaths are created. This is why empaths are gifted in certain ways, because we learn how to pick up on social cues and read people by body language, especially if we grew up in chaotic, volatile environments. That's how empaths are created. So all of this talk about, oh, I'm an empath. Are you really, sis? Or do you just like boundaries? Which one? Anywho, so to simply put it, self-abandonment is when we completely negate who we are and the truth of our being in order to get our needs met, which is never okay. Being emotionally abandoned will create these reoccurring negative self-talk phases that sound like I am not enough, I am not worthy, who am I to want XYZ, I am not deserving, and so on and so forth. Now, we don't go around blatantly saying these things to ourselves. Like, some of you may, but for the majority of us, we're not going around saying, I'm undeserving, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, yada, yada, yada. But, however, these reoccurring negative self-talk things belong to the subconscious mind, and it is showing up in your unconscious beliefs. And beliefs are your program that play in the back of your mind all day, every day, which is why it is so important to keep reprogramming your mind, to keep rewiring your mind, because at the back of your subconscious mind is in control of 90 to 95% of your decisions in your everyday life. So in order to beat the man in the mirror, in order to beat yourself, you have to get rid of these negative self-talk, and by the way you get rid of it is by getting to the root and attaching it to a feeling that creates comfort within your nervous system. So I'm going to tell you a story time about how I knew I had the abandonment wound. I was going to the baseball game with my boyfriend at the time, and I'm a cheesy girl. Like, when I love hard, and I just be saying all kind of stuff in my Instagram or whatever. And like, I didn't want him to see what I was saying because I mean, it was so fucking cheesy. And he was Mr. Cool Guy, so I didn't want him to see it. But he took it as though I was trying to hide something from him in my phone. And soon after, like, he gave me the silent treatment. He wasn't looking my way. And immediately I began to shut down. And I remember getting up from my chair, walking to the bathroom, and just crying. And consciously, I'm like, I know you're not fucking crying right now. Are you really crying over this? Over something so small, something so petty? But in my inner child, I really felt like, oh shit, he's about to leave because he thinks I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I'm about to be abandoned. I'm about to be left. So I walk back, like I'm cool, because he doesn't know I'm crying at this point. I walk back, I'm not talking, and he looks over at me, he's like, are you crying? Are you okay? And I didn't say a word. I didn't say a word. But when we left the baseball game, it was very adamant that I had some work to do and to discover. And so that morning I got up, I journaled what my feelings were, how I was feeling, where they were coming from. And this is how I do it. I do minds, I digest how I feel in 6 steps. I talk about the event. The event was, I wrote something cheesy. I didn't want to show my boyfriend my phone. He thought something was going on. He started giving me the silent treatment, and his body language was telling me that he was displeased, and maybe that brought up a memory of mine that triggered my abandonment wound, and I didn't like it, and I started to cry, and I felt it in the pit of my stomach. So we went through the event. We have, how did it make me feel? Where did I feel it? So I felt it in the pit of my stomach, like as though he was gonna leave. And then, what was the belief? So while I was sitting there and I was feeling these feelings of abandonment, or that he was gonna leave me, as I was sitting there crying, what was the belief? The belief was that he's gonna leave me, he's gonna find somebody better, yada, yada, yada. So now that we have the belief, what is the root? The negative self-talk. I am unworthy, I'm undeserving, I'm not good enough. The diagnosis is the abandonment wound. So oftentimes, when we are in the middle of these experiences and these events, we get so caught up in our emotions that we're not able to break down what we feel, how we feel, what's the root of the feeling, and possibly getting to the root of that, because we're in the midst of it. So sometimes it's very important to allow yourself to feel those feelings first, and then be able to take a step back and say, okay, this is how it played out, this is how I felt, this is where I felt it at. And honestly, I'm gonna be honest, healing is very strategic. It is very strategic and it takes a lot of self-awareness and emotional intelligence. But it's doable. Everybody can do this. It takes time, but it also takes a level of detachment so that you can get to the bottom of this root, this wound, this problem, right? So I found the root, the belief. The belief was that he's gonna leave, he's gonna find somebody better than me, yada, yada, yada. The root, I'm not good enough, I'm unworthy, I'm undeserving, yada, yada, yada. The diagnosis, abandonment. Somewhere in my adolescence, somewhere in my childhood, which I've had plenty of experiences of these feelings, I felt this and I never got the chance to release it. I never got the chance to express it. And it's following me from relationship to relationship, from friendship to friendship, from workplace to workplace, because I was not cognizant and I wasn't aware of where this root came from and how it even came about. At this point, I'm thinking, this is just how life is. This is just, me, my personality. No, it is a belief, it is a root, and it needs to be unplugged so that I can change the directory of my life. So then the question remains, how do I go about healing this? How do I heal this, Kyra? What do I need to do? The first thing I personally needed to do was I needed to get on my parents' map. I wasn't quite ready to forgive them yet because I still had bottled up emotions that I had not discovered, that I had not explored yet. And I don't believe in just blindly saying I forgive when that's not genuine. It's not real. So I'm gonna be real and say I'm not ready to forgive yet. I still haven't felt through it. I haven't discovered this grief, this anger, this pain that I've been holding on for so long. And I'm not gonna sit up here and lie and say I forgive you, because I don't. Let me feel through it first. Let me discover it. And then let me work through it so that I can get to the point of forgiveness. So instead of saying forgive your parents, get on their map. Put yourself in their shoes. Both of my parents were young when they had me. They were very not self-aware. They weren't as self-aware as, I was at their age. I think they had me when they were 21, 22. That's still quite young. And at that age, you don't really know yourself for real. They were both trying to figure out life. They were both trying to figure out how they were going to survive and take care of a child. Me, my dad had already had 2 kids. So there was a lot going on. And so it's safe to say that they didn't have the emotional capacity to take care of a child. So it was never anything personal towards me. It was more so, oh shit, now I'm gonna have to step up to the plate and provide for my baby. And so at that point, you don't have time to think about your child's best interest at heart when it comes to her emotional or his emotional development. All you know is this baby needs health care, this baby needs food, schooling, so on and so forth. Because they can barely take care of themselves, right? So expecting more of them, would be highly unrealistic for me, So through their lens, I was then able to eventually have forgiveness. Was it easy? Fuck no. No, it was not easy at all. I wanted to blame them for everything. But at some point, you have to have some sort of compassion for people and where they were in their life. The second thing is rewriting the story. I took what, people did to me personally, not realizing that people have their own judgments about themselves. People have their own subconscious negative self-talk and beliefs. So someone's undiscovered wounds and inconsidered actions have absolutely nothing to do with me as a person. I am valuable, I am worthy because I am me. What they do to me has nothing to do with me. It's not a reflection on me, it's a reflection on them. And I think that sometimes when someone does something to us, or that when we have a certain event a circumstance in our life, we internalize it and say, oh, this must be how they view me, or this must be how I am. This must be a reflection of me and my worthiness, my value, when it absolutely has nothing to do with your value. Your job is to separate and detach your value, the state of who you are, your being, from this unfortunate circumstance, this event, this person, yada, yada, yada. The two are not the same. The two need to coexist. They're not the same. The other thing I needed to do was I needed to write down what my inner child needed. And I needed to give it to myself. I didn't feel like womanhood was celebrated. I honestly felt like it was this cloud over all the women in my family. I don't feel like it was ever celebrated. I don't remember feeling that much validated either. I don't remember being poured into with words and wisdom. For the longest, it was all about my schoolwork. Did you get your homework done? Did you pass that test? Yada, yada, yada. Why do you have a B? Why do you have a C? It needs to be an A. You almost need to be perfect. I remember those words. I remember those words. So just rewiring the story, re-raising my inner child, reparenting my inner child, and giving myself now what I didn't get back then. Reparenting myself. The other thing that helped me was showing myself compassion for where I am at and what I've been through, because I think it's easy to get hard on yourself, get down and outs about where you feel like you lack at. And considering all that I've been through, my experiences with people, having relational wounds, the trauma, all of it, I feel like it would be highly unrealistic of me not to show myself compassion. Like, I'm a huge advocate for self-love and healing. It would be hypocritical of me to sit here and try to belittle my own feelings and invalidate my own feelings because I'm not where I want to be yet. I'm going to be patient with myself. I'm going to be very compassionate towards myself. And I know a lot of the times people try to project their own feelings of unworthiness and their own feelings of rushed improvement and self-development, but self-development is called self-development for a reason. It's called personal development for a reason. My story is not your story. My growth is not your growth. A lot of my growth comes from within on a psychological and spiritual level. So when people judge you for not being where they think you should be at, kindly give them the middle finger and tell them, mind your business. No, I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. No, but just ignore it because they don't get it. They don't understand. They're not on that wavelength yet. And I wouldn't even waste time having that conversation. And if they loved you, honestly, they would see your growth. Just know that you know you've done the work. You know that you are doing the work. You know that you're doing exactly what needs to get done to break these generational curses. And generational curses are not just, it's not just linked to financial poverty. Generational curses is broad. Generational curses could be being emotionally unintelligent, being unself-aware, not self-aware at all. It could be a lot of things. And one of those things may be that you are healing that generational bloodline of inadequacy, of doubt, of fear. You know, I just wanted to put that out there. So just a quick recap before we move on. The way that that I started healing myself was I got on my parents' map. I didn't take anything personal. I rewrote the story that I was telling myself. And I had self-compassion. I created this self-love for myself. And also I gave my adult self what my inner child needed that she never received. Yeah, those are pretty much all the things that I have done or I have researched or suggested to my clients. Tell me, what are your thoughts on this? Like, how have you been healing your nervous system? How have you been going about healing this abandonment wound or the rejection wound? There's so many wounds to talk about, but I want to hear specifically about how you are planning to heal from the abandonment wound. And remember that everybody is different. It's a self-healing journey. It's a self-healing journey. So what I do may not work for you. I'm just here sharing tips on what could make this process more doable and more and less depressive, because it can be depressive if you let it. But yes, let me know in the comments, what are you doing, how are you doing it, and what is your progress so far. Again, my name is Kyra. I'm a healer, and also I am taking on one-on-one coaching clients as we speak. And basically in this 90-day program, I help you to heal from relational wounds, rewire the subconscious mind from negative self-talk to positive self-talk so that you can change your life, and also by examining your nervous system so that we can heal it and move forward with, living your best life that you want to live. I believe that we are all self-healers, and as a coach, my job is to teach you how to do just that with the expertise and the research that I've done for myself and many other clients. You can find the testimonials on my Instagram and on my website. If you have any questions, let me know. Like I said, I am offering 2 one-on-one spots for the month of December, and I'll be happy to have you on as my client. All right, have a good one. See you soon. Bye, Soul Tribe. I hope this video found you well.